Subscribe right now and hit the bell. Then you won't miss a chapter. And give the show a like. Comment with any thoughts and questions, and I will be happy to chat with you. Thanks for helping out this independent author.
Found. This R&D room was probably also sterile white, but no one could tell since it was dimly lit with limited spectrum LED lights. Josh's pupils needed some time to dilate properly so that he could see better. He was only able to take in a portion of the large room, but he could see it had a deep red glow in some areas and blue in others. Although the lighting presented an uncomfortable feeling in Josh, that was not what had shocked him so much at first. It was the smell, a sickening scent that Josh couldn't quite place. Slowly his eyes began to adjust so he could see more in the dim lighting. There were rows and rows of steel shelves that went up well overhead, with each aisle having a rolling ladder nearby. Every shelf had groups of glass spheres of various sizes, and each sphere was filled with what Josh assumed was some kind of opaque liquid preservative like formaldehyde. That's the horrid smell, Josh thought as he looked into the sphere closest to him. Inside the sphere, Josh could see an object, or rather, maybe it was some kind of an organism. He couldn't tell from where he stood, but his spine started to tingle and sent his scalp into a frenzy. His breathing increased as his fight-or-flight system began to kick in. However, curiosity spurred him on despite the repulsion he was feeling, and Josh slowly walked up to the nearest sphere that was about the size of his head. He had to get close to see what was inside since the lighting was so dim. And there, eerily suspended in the middle of the sphere, was a perfectly preserved hairless mouse. Then Josh saw something else. What the? He spoke quietly to himself as he realized that something was extruding out from its back. Damn it, that's an ear. A human ear. He said quite a bit louder, forgetting his former stealthiness. "Who's there?" a man yelled in a gruff voice that was then instantly followed by a loud crash and a cry of pain. Josh began to turn and run, but then stopped and turned back as he realized someone must be hurt. "I better see if this guy's all right," he thought as he began to jog toward the source of the yell from the other side of the room. Josh quickly passed by many more various spheres containing obvious sequential genetic iterations of multiple experiments. After a few seconds, he slowed to an apprehensive, careful walk, trying to locate the other person. Josh smelled a horrendous odor just as he accidentally stepped in some liquid, which he assumed was probably formaldehyde. He now heard grunting and cursing coming from nearby, and he looked through to the next aisle. Between two spheres preserving large rats that looked like they must have been training for the rodent parallel of a strongman competition, Josh caught sight of the other man. The man was pinned to the ground by a large section of a shelf that looked like it was several hundred pounds and surrounded by broken glass. He must have been assembling shelving when Josh's entrance startled him into falling. Josh was about to call out to him, but he was silenced when the man gave a huge angry scream as he pushed the shelving off of himself like it was only a movie prop made of foam and stood up with another curse as he clutched at his ribs. Josh was shocked. The man was huge, really huge. The large defined muscles that came out from his tank top twitched and flexed as he moved, and it was obvious that he didn't fit in with the rest of the people working at the EGO. He looked like he was carved from stone as he stood there in the dim red light, heaving with anger. Then the man's head turned slightly, and he paused for a second like a wolf listening for its prey. Suddenly, as if he knew Josh had been there the whole time, he quickly turned to look directly at him. Josh was found out. His eyes went big, and he froze like a rabbit that was just spotted. Then, in the strangest moment of both their lives, they simultaneously squinted and leaned toward each other in utter confusion. Josh was not looking at the face of an older man, but one that was his peer, young and sharp. He's a pretty good-looking guy, actually, Josh thought for a split second. He is tall, dark, and hands. Josh's mind did a double-take. There was a strange familiarity about this guy. Then he had it, in a flow of realization. He thought that he was not quite looking at someone else. It was like he was looking at himself, or some version of himself anyway. Yet this was a much bigger, stronger, and, well, stonier-looking version. A version Josh had been only in his daydreams, and had always snapped out of with serious disappointment. It only took the flash of a moment for Josh's mind to go through all of these thoughts and feelings, but his mind would store them away forever. And now he was looking directly at this amazing version of himself that he had always wanted to be and knew he never could be. Yet it was not another's face and eyes he was looking into, but those of his own, and that face was looking back at him now in the dim redness, with a look of total contempt on it. So Josh did the only natural thing there was to do. He ran. "Where did you go?" asked Rachel in a hushed tone as Josh briskly caught up to the back of the group. "And why do you look like you just saw a ghost?" she continued on with a concerned expression. "I think maybe I just did. I'll have to tell you at home, though," whispered Josh as he tried to slow his breathing. They continued on for about another 20 minutes with the Indian scientist babbling excitedly, but Josh was not paying attention. He was lost in thought, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The group ended up back in the huge entryway, and Josh thought the brilliant colors of the massive double helix seemed just a bit less brilliant than they had before. Then came the strong voice of Dr. D, and Josh was pulled out of his thoughts and back to real time. Hello again, my young scientists. I'm truly honored to have had you all as our guests today, and I hope you are inspired by what you have seen here. Remember, we have a few internships available for this summer still. An internship at the AGO would be a tremendous opportunity for some bright young minds. Have a wonder-filled day, everyone. Rachel made a beeline for Dr. D as the group passed him with their thank yous and goodbyes. Josh followed her with a million questions in his mind, but he was not sure how to ask any of them without sounding crazy or upset. So he just said, "Thank you, sir," flatly. "You know, Josh," said Dr. D as he turned them both away from the group and put a huge hand on his shoulder. "My son Damien is usually here, and he's about your age. I would have loved for you two to meet, but he has gone home as he is not feeling well today. Maybe you should come back soon. You two would have much in common, I think." With that last line, his eyes flashed, and it appeared to Josh that he gave the smallest hint of a knowing smile. Then he turned to Rachel with a dashing smile and told her, "And Rachel, you really should consider an internship here with us. Now I must be going." And he just turned and walked away without waiting for any reply. The two watched the light displayed together briefly as Josh's curiosity got the better of him. What did Dr. D mean? He must know what's going on here, Josh thought. He turned to Rachel then. "I have to ask him something. I'll meet you on the bus." Then he jogged off toward the hall where Dr. D had gone. As Josh came around the corner, he was surprised to see his twin there with Dr. D at the other end of the hall, and he stopped dead in his tracks. Dr. D looked livid, and then he just hit his twin in the face with a firm slap that seemed to both demoralize him and infuriate him simultaneously. He put his finger in the twin's face, and Josh could just barely make out his words. "Don't be a fool, Damien. Think. Be better." Josh thought better of his actions as he quickly turned back, thinking, "I am not about to interrupt that." So he left with a deep feeling of unease.
Be sure to share the show with friends and write an Amazon review. Get the entire audiobook right now. Go to sa.vanderwarf.com to get it at an extremely discounted price. To receive the free ebook and my wallpaper book cover image, just sign up for the newsletter at sa.vanderwarf.com. Then you can be notified for the release of the anticipated sequel to The Man Who Made Himself. Thanks so much and enjoy the gifts.